let's get into the NBA Southwest Division preview. We're going to start with the Houston Rockets. I'm going to go over what they did this offseason. And Joel, then I'm going to ask you one thing to watch this season, one thing you're looking out for in your record prediction for them. Houston Rockets offseason was one of the busiest in the NBA. They re-signed Steven Adams, Aaron Holiday, Jeff Green, Jabari Smith Jr., and Jayshawn Tate. They added Clint Capella, J.D. Davidson, Kevin Durant, obviously, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Josh Okogie. And the four guys they said goodbye to were Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Jock Landale, and Cam Whitmore. What is the number one thing you're going to be watching for them next season?
Alperen Şengün. Alperen Şengün.
I'm going to be watching the same thing. His fit next to KD is what I'm most interested in. I imagine there'll be a lot of staggered minutes there, and I think his offensive lift while KD's off the floor is what's going to separate them from a Western Conference contender to a true team that can win the NBA Finals. I'm going to be watching Şengün as well. My record prediction for them is 55-27. I got them finishing first in this division. How many wins do you see them finishing with?
I see them around the same type of mark. The thing with the Rockets is I have some question marks about them. I have a question mark about Kevin Durant and how well he can lead a team at this point in his career, but more so he's never been a player that, I don't want to say elevates a situation, but I feel like when your back is against the wall, he hasn't risen up outside of Golden State. Brooklyn, you could point to that. He did do that, so I want to give him credit there. But this is going to be Kevin Durant's last shot to propel a team into a deep playoff run, maybe a championship. And I think if he does that, this could do a lot for how people view him in general, because I'm going to view him the same pretty much regardless. But I think his legacy would take a big boost from it. Amen Thompson, how much of a leap will he take? Because, and this is kind of like what pisses me off, and I don't want to put two players against each other, but all the hype that Amen Thompson gets, I think is warranted because of how special an athlete that he is. Mm-hmm. But one thing that he is not is an offensive creator. He still can't consistently create offense for himself and for others. And the jump shot. Those are things that need to improve. And usually a player that has his offensive skill set, we criticize them and bring them down for being liabilities on offense. Amen Thompson has gotten the ultimate pass for that. And he has overshadowed somebody like Alperen Şengün, who Alperen Şengün has been the Rockets' best player for the last couple of years. He's been their most impactful player by every metric. He showed up in the playoffs and played well. And outside of this past season, his shooting percentage has always been above 60%. This past season was his 1 year where his efficiency took a hit, but his defense was really good. And we saw in the playoffs that his defense was also awesome against a Golden State offense that loves to run around. And I think he washed away the Domantas Sabonis allegations, and he proved that he could thrive in a playoff setting. I think Alperen Şengün is special. And the way that he's kind of just been kicked to the back burner as like, oh, Amen Thompson, he's just clearly better than him or going to be clearly better than him. I don't agree with that. And I think Alperen Şengün deserves more respect for the role that he's played on the Rockets, and all those additions that you mentioned, along with the subtractions. You go from Jalen Green to Kevin Durant. You go from Jock Landale to Clint Capella. You go from Dylan Brooks to Dorian Finney-Smith. These are essentially all upgrades that the Rockets made, and the second seed last year should be even better this year.
I understand your point. Şengün deserves more credit. 100% agree there. But the fact that you're under-assuming that, or not saying the fact that Amen does have a higher ceiling than Alperen Şengün. So moving forward, a lot of people are looking at Amen because they see that athletic ability. They see the minor things he needs to improve on, and they think he can improve on it. I'm not sitting here arguing that Alperen Şengün doesn't deserve credit. He does, but moving forward, I'm looking at Amen Thompson because Kevin Durant, this is a guy who's missed 20-plus games in the last few years in the league. Amen Thompson's going to need to take on a bigger role because, yes, Kevin Durant, ideally, on paper, is replacing Jalen Green, but when Kevin Durant misses those 20 games, Jalen Green isn't going to be there to take the shots. Dylan Brooks is not going to be there to set the foundation of the culture. Dylan Brooks, as much shit that he gets, there is never a night that he takes off. Amin Thompson's going to have a lot bigger role this year, and I think he will prove that he will be the cornerstone piece of this Rockets team. It's not anything against Şengün. It's purely ceiling base for me.
I'm going off what I've seen, and I've seen Alperen Şengün improve every year. I think he
Have
can
we
be
not
an
seen Amin?
offensive hub. He has improved. I'm not saying he hasn't, but Alperen Şengün right now is shooting threes. He was 4 for 7 last night. Yesterday against Nikola Jokic, and he outplayed Nikola Jokic. Alperen Şengün, if that jump shot is reliable with his post game, his touch, his passing, his ability to get to his spots, if you add in that shooting ability, I mean, we're talking about a player that can reach a ceiling that most people think that he couldn't reach before. That's all I'm saying.
We shall see. I imagine a lot of minutes of Amin Thompson and Alperen Şengün together. So hopefully it works out for both of them. I agree. I have questions about all the same things you have questions about, which is why Denver is the second best contender behind OKC, and it's not even close. Houston in this division, they'll win it, though. Let's move on to the Dallas Mavericks. They re-signed Dante Exum, Kyrie Irving, and PJ Washington. They added D'Angelo Russell. They said goodbye to Spencer Dinwiddie. What is the number one thing you're watching out of Dallas?
If they can stay healthy and how well they mesh. D'Angelo Russell was brought in to be a point guard. He has chemistry with Anthony Davis. I think that reduces Cooper Flagg's on-ball role a little bit more, but I do think that the major thing to watch for with Dallas is Cooper Flagg. I know they have all these veterans, they have all these jumbo wings on their team, but Cooper Flagg is the reason why there's interest and intrigue in the team right now. Because if he is better, even than we expect, even though we expect some high things, Dallas can be a serious contender if they're healthy. With Anthony Davis, with Kyrie Irving, with all their depth pieces, if Cooper Flagg is 18-8-4 as a rookie. I mean, how is this not a big three already?
Because D'Angelo Russell is the starting point guard. It's pretty simple.
What about when Kyrie comes back?
We're going to bank on Kyrie coming back from a serious injury very late in the regular season. That's why they're going to be a contender.
Serious injury, torn ACL in the year 2025. ACL injuries, players recover from them all the time.
This isn't Kyrie in Cleveland, bro. This is a guy who's in his mid-30s.
This is Kyrie, who just the other day was shooting the basketball already.
I'm not banking on Kyrie for this team to become an instant contender when D'Angelo Russell is the point. You're talking about chemistry with Anthony Davis?
If D'Angelo Russell is the backup point guard, then yeah, the Dallas Mavericks are in a great position.
You're talking about a contender. And in the same breath, the reason you're selling that is D'Angelo Russell has chemistry with Anthony Davis.
No, I'm saying they're a contender because of the talent on this team with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Cooper Flagg, and the depth around them. They just re-signed PJ Washington. They still have Derek Lively. They still have Daniel Gafford. They have Najee Marshall. They have Max Christie. The depth on this team is awesome. They have Klay Thompson. This is essentially the same roster that Luka went to the NBA Finals with. It's even better than that roster.
No, it's not. Kyrie Irving's not playing 70% of the year at least. And this brings me to the
Kyrie Irving didn't play most of the regular season when they made the Finals.
But he came back fully Kyrie Irving, and he wasn't coming off a torn ACL.
So are you telling me Kyrie Irving, when he comes back, if he comes back in February, April, if he has months to ramp up, we're not talking about the Mavericks as something serious, a team that could upset another team in the playoffs?
One, not in this Western Conference. Two, that brings me to the one thing I'm watching in his primary ball handling. Everyone thinks that D'Angelo Russell is just going to handle this, and yeah, it may take away from Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg was not asked to do this in college. This is going to be new for Flagg. You and I were in person watching him at Summer League. He didn't look comfortable in Summer League in that role. I don't think he's going to look comfortable his first year in the NBA in that role, much less when your only other option to handle the ball is D'Angelo Russell, a guy who got shipped out from the Lakers because he could not be a part of a winning culture defensively, goes to the Brooklyn Nets. Everyone's like, oh, Brooklyn D'Lo's back. His numbers got worse there. Are we sitting here expecting that he's going to put up better numbers in Dallas than he did in Brooklyn? It's ridiculous.
Nobody said that Brooklyn D'Lo is back. That ship has sailed. Cooper Flagg also had 30 in his second Summer League game. Let's not forget that. Cooper Flagg can handle the ball. He can handle the transition. He can make plays. D'Angelo Russell on a vet minimum contract where he has so many good players around him, yes, he could be fine. He could be more efficient. I think D'Lo has a bounce back year, but ultimately, he's your backup point guard. If D'Lo's your backup point guard, you are in a good spot. And the Mavericks have depth. They have 10 good, legitimately really good NBA players on their roster with Anthony Davis, who's still a top 10 player, Kyrie Irving, even if he comes back at 70% and is giving you 20 a night, if Cooper Flag is day one instant impact, yes, this Mavericks team is going to be really freaking good and a lot to deal with.
So you not only are making 3 bets, you have a 3-leg parlay of Anthony Davis staying healthy, Kyrie Irving coming back 100%, and betting on Cooper Flag's primary ball handling. And if it's not, D'Angelo Russell can take care of it. So it's really a 4-leg parlay we're talking about. For them to be a contender, all 4 of those things have to hit.
Yes, that is their ceiling. Best case scenario, the Mavericks can be a contender based on the roster and based on their ceiling.
Can you talk about their floor?
You're talking about Cooper Flag and the offensive ball handling. Well, okay, let's take a step back real quick. Let's talk about Cooper Flag and the defensive player that he is and the defense that the Mavericks are going to roll out there. We're talking about an Anthony Davis, Cooper Flag, Daniel Gafford, or Derek Lively anchor defense. Are we serious? We're talking about a defense that has the potential to be the best defense in the NBA. That's how good the Mavericks can be.
Well, they better be that, because when you're reading those names and I'm thinking about spacing, I just cringe and shiver at sitting here in my seat. Here's the deal. This team won 39 games last year, and a bulk of those games they won was before the Luka Doncic trade. Luka Doncic is no longer there. I have them improving by 1 win. They finished 40-42, and they finished 4th in this division. What is your prediction?
So you think that the Mavericks win 40 games with this roster? And that is insanely disrespectful.
It's not disrespectful to them. It's look at the rest of the West. You and I couldn't even fit them in the top 8 a couple weeks ago. Or you could. Would you had them at 8th?
The Mavericks finished with that amount of wins because Anthony Davis got hurt. If you were telling me Anthony Davis is going to get hurt again, he's going to miss half the year, okay, sure. I could get on board with what you're saying. If the Mavericks, based on right now, they're healthy, and if they are healthy, no, I don't have them going under 500. They're an over 500 team. I got them at 45 to 46 wins. That's how good this Mavericks team is.
What a huge jump. This is the reason I have them at 40 wins. Like I said earlier, all 4 of these things have to happen. Anthony Davis has to be fully healthy. Kyrie Irving has to come back 100%. Cooper Flag has to be a great primary ball handler in his first year in the NBA. And D'Angelo Russell has to be a starting point guard for 70% of the season. If one of those things fall through, this team is a 40-win team, and it's a bet I am willing to take.
I think they're not going under 500. There's no way I see that. There's no way. We can have a friendly wager, and you can have under 500. I will have over 500.
We'll definitely talk about that off camera. Can't wait for that. Let's move on to a team that I think will definitely be under 500. Another team in the division.
The Memphis Grizzlies?
Funny. New Orleans Pelicans.
Ah.
They re-signed Herb Jones to a 3-year extension. They added Sadiq Bey, Kevon Looney, and Jordan Poole. They said goodbye to Bruce Brown and C.J. McCollum in that Jordan Poole trade. They also they said goodbye to Kelly Olynyk in that trade to the Wizards as well. What is your number one thing you were watching for the New Orleans?
Zion being healthy. That's it. If he's healthy and the roster around him is healthy, like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, I think they'll be competitive. This is a team that not too long ago was the 8th seed in the playoffs, and they were a top 5 seed before Zion got hurt. The Pelicans rely so much on Herb Jones's defensive impact because the difference in them being one of the best defenses in the NBA 2 seasons ago versus dropping off a cliff last year was essentially Herb Jones. That's how impactful he is. If he is healthy, their defense they have a high floor, and then offensively they have, although clunky fits, they have good offensive players with Zion, with Murphy, with Jordan Poole. But overall, this is a team that you can trust. This is a team that it is clunky because you can't really build around Zion based on his availability. So they haven't brought in players that fit him the best. But this is a team that they have a lot of talent. You know, it's just about putting it together and all staying healthy. and they can maybe surprise people if they do stay healthy.
Say what you want to say. Say if Zion is healthy, he's a what?
He's the top 15 player in the NBA.
Even though that has been proven, we come back to back to back to this statement. If he's healthy, he's a top 15 player in the NBA. And what I've told you over the weeks is that this is a lie that has been sold to you over the last several years by NBA media. We saw him healthy in 2024. Not last season, the season before, 70 games. There is 24 All-Stars that are voted for. He was not even a snub. He was not an All-Star. He was not a snub. There are 15 All-NBA players that are voted for. He was not an All-NBA player, and he was not a snub. So if we're talking about top 15 when healthy, the data doesn't prove it. The voting doesn't prove it. I'm not sitting here making the argument. I'm letting the players voting, the coaches voting, the fan voting. I'm letting that make the argument. It's simply not true. And that's why my number one thing to watch is his buy-in. Does he want to be there? Does he end up on another team by the end of the season? That's what I'm watching.
Here's the thing. Thank God I don't go by the media's voting standards because I don't believe in it anyway. Like the NBA Finals MVP reward or award that gets handed out. It's only a certain handful of people that vote on it. Doesn't mean I agree with the voting.
You don't have to.
It doesn't mean it.
You weren't sitting here screaming that he was a snub either 2 years ago. I don't remember that video coming across my For You page.
Because I could watch Zion Williamson and I could say that is one of the most dominant forces in basketball today. And he did average 26 to 27 points last season. When he was healthy, he was dominating in spurts. He was dominating those 30 games. There's not 15 players you can name me. I don't care about no all-star list. There's not 15 players you can name me that are better than Zion Williamson when he's healthy.
Let's go to the All-NBA teams that year. We're doing this week. What you're doing. All right, All-NBA first team for 2024. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Shea, Nikola Jokic, and Jason Tatum. Any arguments there?
No.
Second team, you're Jalen Brunson, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Kawhi Leonard 2 years ago. Any arguments there?
No.
Third team, 2024, Devin Booker, Stephen Curry, Tyrese Halliburton, LeBron James, and Domantas Sabonis in his breakout year with the Sacramento Kings.
Sabonis isn't better than Zion.
That year he was.
I don't care about that. I'm saying he's not a better player than Zion Williamson. Sabonis is not better than Zion.
So I got the votes, Joel.
So you think Sabonis is a better basketball player than Zion Williamson?
I am looking at the votes. Those were the 15 players who made the All-NBA team. The guy who was the first one out was Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. The guy behind him was Paul George 2 years ago. Tyrese Maxey, Rudy Gobert, De'Aaron Fox, and then Zion Williamson. Jaylen Brown had 50 All-NBA third-team votes. Zion had 8. He was not even the first 5 out.
I'm not asking the voting who they think the 15 best are. I'm asking Jack Hampton. I'm not asking nobody else. Outside of Jaylen Brown, that's the only guy you could argue is better than Zion Williamson when healthy, even though I think Zion is a more dominant player than Jaylen Brown when healthy. But all those other guys, Tyrese Maxey, Domantas Sabonis, they're not better than Zion Williamson.
To me, it is very ironic that you hang this banner of the Pelicans were an 8 seed 2 years ago, and it's never mentioned Zion leaves the play-in game in which he had 40. They get swept in the first round of the playoffs, and this is the exact same season. He doesn't sniff an all-star team, and he doesn't sniff an all-NBA team. What you're asking me is, do I think Zion Williamson is better than the people that continue to make all-star and all-NBA teams over him? My answer is no, Joel, and it's just as simple as that.
And my answer is yes, because I'm not basing that off my reasoning. And also because that year, Zion wasn't as statistically dominant as he was last season. Zion was averaging 22 a night. He was averaging 6 to 7 rebounds. What we saw from Zion this past season, did you watch him?
It was a smaller sample size.
So it doesn't matter?
LaMelo Ball averaged 35 the first 20 games of the year, and then it fades off.
All right, we saw LaMelo do that on poor efficiency. That's what we did. We saw that. Zion's
on good efficiency. It's dunks and attacking the lane.
Zion was one of the most efficient players in basketball
Good. He should be. What 3-pointers does he take? What mid-range shots does he take?
Well, that's the thing. He is one of the most dominant forces downhill. 25, 7, and 5 in 28 minutes per game. Are we serious? He's averaging 25, 7, and 5 in 28 minutes.
Let's back it up. What is the record prediction you have for them? If you think he's so dominant, if he's fully healthy, what record do they have with Jordan Poole?
I think you can't bank on them being healthy. So that's what knocks their record down. That's what knocks it down. But I'm willing to say this is a 38-40 win team. I'm willing to say that.
How many teams are winning 40 games in the Western Conference? Because by your
the Pelicans
judgment,
can win just as many games as the Grizzlies.
Everybody, okay, that is utterly ridiculous.
They can.
By your math,
they can.
14 of 15 teams are winning 40 games in the West. It's unattainable.
The West is going to be pretty stacked. But the Pelicans, I think like 36 wins for them, baking in the injuries is reasonable, I think, for them, yes.
Yeah, with Jordan Poole on the roster, it's not reasonable. The record
prediction. Jordan Poole averaged 21 last year. He was on good efficiency.
Do we not remember 2 years ago? Jordan Poole is going to be the MIP. Now that he's left Golden State, he's not sharing shots with Klay.
Do you just judge everything based on 2 years ago? It's already happened. We're talking
21
about
points last year for what?
Last season.
It was the Wizards, bro. They were one of the worst teams in NBA history.
So the fact that he was efficient on a bad team makes me think that around good players, he'll be efficient, right?
Okay, you were making the Cam Thomas and Maxey argument. Did you see what he got paid this morning?
Yes.
1 year and $6 million. That is what we're paying guys who do put up those kind of numbers on horrific teams, on bad efficiency. You want to talk about efficiency? Bring up the Jordan Poole thing.
Poole was efficient last year, though.
Okay. 25 and 57, fifth in the division. There has
25 wins.
Yes, there has to be some type of drop-off. And this is one of the best years we're ever going to see out of the Western Conference. There has to be teams that are bottom feeders. And to me, it's not that crazy that the Pelicans are one of those.
No, it's not. If you think they're going to be hurt again, and Zion's going to miss half the year and Herb Jones is going to miss the entire year, yeah. And Trey Murphy is going to have a season-ending injury like halfway through the season, then sure. But no, if they're healthy, no, they're not winning 25 games, Jack.
Okay, we shall see. Maybe we won't because it just takes one of those things to happen. All 4 or 5 of them don't have to happen. Zion doesn't have to get hurt. Trey Murphy doesn't have to get hurt. But we'll move on. San Antonio Spurs. This summer, they re-signed De'Aaron Fox to a 4-year extension. Love that conversation last week. Jordan McLaughlin returned on a 1-year deal. They added Luke Cornett, Kelly Olynyk, and Lindy Waters. They said goodbye to Malachi Branham, Chris Paul, and Blake Wesley. What is your number one thing to watch for the San Antonio Spurs this season?
Victor Wembanyama, offensive growth, and how he fits with De'Aaron Fox. They only played a couple games together, and when Wemby was on the floor, they had a close to a 500 record. I think they're even better now. And Dylan Harper, his role off the bench. I also want to see Stephon Castle, how he fits into a role off the ball, if he shoots better. I think that's what I'm looking for. San Antonio, I had all these teams ranked in terms of best to worst, and San Antonio came in second for me. Rockets are number 1, San Antonio's 2, and the Mavericks are 3. I think the Spurs are going to take a major leap because of how great Victor Wembanyama is. I think it all banks on his greatness. And if he is that great, which I think he can be if he stays healthy, then the Spurs, I have winning 45 games in the West. I have the Rockets around 55 plus, and I have the Mavericks at around 43, around the same ballpark as San Antonio. I don't think the amount of games between the two is going to be that much separation.
Yeah, the record we have is the same. The division finish is not. My one thing to watch is that guard cluster they have. We've talked about this. We don't need to cover it anymore. But Fox, Castle, Harper, what that looks like. Harper coming off the bench, what he turns into. Is it a Scoot Henderson type of rookie year, or is it a Trae Young type of rookie year? I'm interested to see which one of those it is. Record predictions, 1 win away from you. I have them taking a 10-win jump, 44-38, 6 games over 500. Again, that would be a 10-win improvement last season. However, in the division, I have them finishing 3rd. Division finish doesn't matter. This isn't the NFL. But I think I see where we disagree, and that is on the Memphis Grizzlies, per usual. I am high on the Spurs, just not higher than the Grizzlies.
Okay. Yeah, because when you said you have them finishing third. I was like, you have to have the Mavericks over them, but no, it's the Grizzlies. A child's play. The Memphis
It's not
Grizzlies.
child's place. Now I know that, back when we are talking about the Mavericks, I say they're finishing fourth. You're so caught up in, oh my God, like think of the defense the Mavericks going to have. Kyrie Irving's going to come back absolutely amazing. I'm not even listening to Jack whenever he's making his predictions. I'm on the edge here because he's whipping my ass so bad in this argument. I gotta do my part. So I understand.
So I'm looking at the Memphis Grizzlies, and you think that they're going to win 46 games?
We'll get to it when we get to it, but
Okay.
with the Spurs, what do you think Victor Wembanyama averages?
He averages 27 or 28.
I agree.
The 3-point shooting leap that he took was real, and once he started getting consistent, he was averaging around those numbers. So I think that Wemby, he has a chance to be an MVP candidate this year. That's how good he's going to be.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of the 5 best players in basketball.
100%. And the Fox thing is going to be interesting. It's another thing I'm watching. I mean, you bringing up Fox and Wembanyama, they did not play a lot together. What is the ceiling on that team? We can't decide it yet. We cannot decide it yet. My question is not them this year. I believe they're going to potentially be a playoff team, obviously be well over 500. But when it comes to the future and that extension is kicking in and De'Aaron Fox in the year 2030 is, he's 32 years old, making $61.5 million per year. That's where it comes in because that contract's going to be untradeable. And I don't know what his output is going to be in the year 2030 next to Victor Wembanyama. That's where I have concerns for the Spurs. But this year, I think you and I pretty much see eye to eye. Is that fair?
It is.
All right.
Get on to the Grizzlies. I want to talk about them.
Okay. Memphis Grizzlies. This summer, they re-signed Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cam Spencer. They added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Ty Jerome, Jock Landale. Said goodbye to Cole Anthony, obviously Desmond Bane, Jay Huff, and Luke Kennard. What is the one thing you're watching for them this year?
How much the departure of Desmond Bane affects the team. He's a really good player that they lost, and they replaced him with KCP, who was not good last season. I just the Grizzlies, I just can't get over the fact they're number 2 for you because they're led by proven durable player John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., who his offensive limitations sometimes can really piss you off. In the playoffs, he was getting guarded by Alex Caruso, and not that Caruso's a great defender, but I don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. plays to his size. The rebounding still a deficiency. I just look at major holes the Grizzlies have on their team, like the shooting guard position. I think KCP's below average. Like Zach Edey. I think Zach Edey, he is good for rebounding, shots around the rim, but for the most part, I think his slow-footedness on defense can be a problem for you guys. And it's really like the Grizzlies are banking on their young players taking steps forward, that being Jalen Wells and potentially Cedric Howard in his first year. And the signing of Ty Jerome was solid. It was good.
It was better than that.
This Ty Jerome and KCP made me think, oh, you now replace Desmond Bane's impact. No, it doesn't.
Wow. I'll address that in a minute. My number one thing to watch is wing depth. Can a second year Jalen Wells, like you said, be ready to be a third option? I'm not asking him to fill Desmond Bane's shoes, but can Cedric Howard help out with that? I think you're not just replacing Desmond Bane with KCP and that's it. It's KCP, Ty Jerome, Cedric Howard, who was acquired to, that draft pick was acquired in the Magic trade to eventually trade up and get Coward. So those are 3 guys you got in return for Desmond Bane, not to mention all the first-round picks you have. You own the number 1 asset in the entire NBA this season. It is the Phoenix Suns' first-round draft pick next year. You can make an argument that Atlanta has it and the Pelicans, but for whatever reason, you're pretty high on the Pels. So I think the Grizzlies have the number 1 asset too. What do they do with that potentially at the deadline as well? Yes, you can make ha jokes about Ja Morant's health, but when you look at Scottie Pippen Jr., this is a guy who dropped damn near 30 in the playoffs last year. You look at Ty Jerome. If Ja Morant misses 30 games, I feel good about Scottie Pippen starting them. I feel good about still having Ty Jerome coming off the bench despite Ja Morant missing those games. I feel good about Jalen Wells in his second year. I feel good about Cedric Howard being the steal of the NBA draft. That's why I have this team just winning 1 or 2 more games than the San Antonio Spurs, not much higher, but 46-36, finishing second in this division.
So if Ja gets hurt, the starting lineup of Ty Jerome, KCP, Jalen Wells, Jared Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey is what's going to lift the Grizzlies.
It's Scottie Pippen and Ty Jerome would come off the bench, but no, I think that can get you by for a week. I'm saying that they are more locked and loaded. When one of those big three went down last year, and this is the reason they made the trade, when Ja, Dez, or Jaren was not playing, they were horrific because they were playing G League players. They were playing Vince Williams and GG Jackson, who have not been comparable on this roster, not to mention if they take a leap this year. Now they actually have depth. In this NBA, it's not about your three best guys anymore, Joel. It's about having depth, and we saw that with the Indiana Pacers throughout their playoff run.
So why isn't that same logic used for the Mavericks? Because they have more depth than the Memphis Grizzlies.
Because the Mavericks do not have a viable point guard. They don't have one.
I still would rather have
the Grizzlies have three.
I'd rather have the duo of Anthony Davis and Cooper Flag than John JJJ.
I would not. And especially I'm looking at Anthony Davis's health compared to Ja. I trust Ja's health more than Anthony Davis's health at this point in his career.
How?
Because Ja played 50 games last year.
Anthony Davis has been more healthy than Ja.
Ja played 50 games last year.
50 games is the bar?
Whenever talking about arguing his health over Anthony Davis's health, yeah, that's the bar.
AD played 51 games last year.
Okay, and what are we talking about as he's getting later in his career? The fit with Cooper Flag in itself is clunky. At least Ja Morant next to Jaren Jackson makes sense.
I don't even know if it makes that much sense because they are not even pick and roll partners. It's not even like they feed each other on offense that much. They complement each other's skill sets. Ja Morant in the pick and roll is not usually running that with Jaren Jackson Jr.
The one thing I will give you whenever it comes to this argument is Tomas Isolo's record. I know they had a hellacious schedule to finish out the season, and obviously he coached in the playoffs. That was not fair to throw him in that fire. If you're going to fire Taylor Jenkins, they should have done it this summer. I vehemently disagree with how they went about that. But that is the thing that can crash and burn. It's not going to be that they don't have that Desmond Bane is gone. Desmond Bane was a fantastic player, but some of the national media's lies, it's like I heard that he was a great defender. I didn't see that in the playoffs. You mentioned Jaren Jackson being swallowed up by Alex Caruso. Desmond Bane was the number one guard option. I didn't see him do anything in the playoffs. That's why they moved off. They're valuing depth over having him as a third option.
I mean, I understand, but I think the depth, although better than last year, you're still losing an all-star caliber player to the team, and that's going to be a huge blow. Ty Jerome, last time I checked, was pretty bad in the playoffs too. In the second round.
We're talking about regular season record, Joel.
Yeah, I know, but you mentioned Desmond Bane's playoffs. That's what you said, right? You mentioned his playoffs, so that's why I brought Ty Jerome's playoffs, because he was bad in the playoffs. I just think the Memphis Grizzlies, right now, just the vibes of the team feels like they're kind of on the decline. You need magic to happen again. You need Ja Morant to revert back to the best possible version of Ja Morant to uplift this team. And all of the good things that you're mentioning to me about the Grizzlies, the one thing that stands out are things that are not currently on this roster are going to be on the floor this season. There are things later like assets, the Suns pick. Yeah, that's why I think the Grizzlies are in a good position to pivot and rebuild. But I do feel like overall they are trending in that direction more so than they're trending in the direction of competing and shocking the West.
I don't see them shocking anything. I have them finishing 8th in the Western Conference with 46 wins. I just have them 2 wins ahead of the Spurs. That what I'm saying is not bold, and it's not I have them as a Western Conference contender. That's simply not true. I'm just making the argument they can win 46 games and finish second in this division.
I see less than that. I think that if you're being fair, you have to bake in injuries for the Grizzlies too. You can't just say you're baking it in for the Mavericks and the Pelicans, but you're not baking it in for the Grizzlies. Because if Ja misses time with no Bane now and no Ja, 30 games is a lot. 30. Yep. That's the number you used earlier. 30 games without Ja. I'm thinking you're out the play-in. You're probably at the bottom of the play-in if that happens.
And I could see that. And that is a bet I'm willing to take. I cannot argue about Ja's health, but what I will argue is that I believe in his health more than Anthony Davis's health and Zion Williamson's health. And that is what we are talking about division-wise here. I believe in Ja's health over Zion and Anthony Davis, and that's a bet I'm willing to take.
I disagree with the Anthony Davis part. I can't say nothing about Zion. Zion has not been healthy.
Okay.
But no, yeah, this is how I feel about the Grizzlies. My record for them is actually where you had the Mavericks. I think the Grizzlies are a 40-win team.
So,
That's how I feel about
so
them.
you're taking the under on 40.5 win total. That's what you're telling me.
That's their win total?
Yeah, the win total's 40.5.
Yeah, I'll go slightly under at
Yeah,
40
that
exact.
is blasphemy. So one more time, the five I have finishing in this division: the Rockets 55 wins, Grizzlies second 46 wins, Spurs 44, Mavericks 40, and then the Pelicans huge drop off at the end 25 wins. Go ahead with yours.
I have the Rockets at 56 wins. I have the Spurs at 45. I have the Mavericks at 44. I have the Grizzlies at 40, and I have the Pelicans at 35.